No gluten, no dairy, no cholesterol. No gluten, no dairy, low cholesterol. Hello, I'm Jean Duane, Alternative Cook. Welcome to my kitchen. If you're avoiding dairy products or gluten, or if you're eating a diet of low or no cholesterol, this program is for you. I have learned firsthand of the profound impact food can have on the body. I am gluten and dairy intolerant, and I eat a low cholesterol diet. Over the years, I've learned to cook without these ingredients, and I've honed my skills at cooking school and studied many methods. I'll show you how to use whole, unrefined, unprocessed foods, primarily beans and grains, fruits and vegetables, nuts, and of course chocolate, in ways that are pleasing to the palate and fun to prepare. The series of DVDs will show how to cook delicious dishes covering many genres of cuisine. Now, let's get started. Hi, Cookie!
Hi, Jean!
Are you ready to see how to make spicy, fresh Mexican food that tastes good with no saturated fat, no cheese, and no meat? Think of it! Low-calorie Mexican food with no lard, no cholesterol, no gluten, and no dairy. Food you can eat all you want, guilt-free.
Is that really possible?
Yes!
Well, you know, I need something to take to a potluck that's healthy. Do you have any ideas, Jean?
I have the perfect thing to take to a potluck, Cookie. It's a seasoned black bean and rice dish topped with a fresh salsa. Every time I bring it to a potluck, it all gets eaten.
Well, that's a sure sign it's a success.
We'll make tostadas using a spicy mushroom and bean base. This is served with homemade guacamole and homemade tomato salsa and other chopped toppings.
This sounds like one to make regularly.
Tamales are my favorite. We'll make 3 sister tamales filled with roasted squash, carrots, and beans. Then we'll make a sauce out of the roasted vegetables to serve on top of the tamales. Tamales freeze well, so we'll make extra to freeze for a fast meal.
A sauce from vegetables?
Yes, it's low calorie and full of flavor. Then we'll make enchiladas with a tofu and vegetable filling and a warm red chili sauce. It's a baked dish and easy to serve to company. We'll serve it with a cool, refreshing salad.
That sounds good. But you know what I really want, Jean?
What's that, Cookie?
Well, since I can't eat dairy products, I've really missed my nachos.
You are in luck. We'll make baked seasoned chips to go with a nacho cheese made of white beans. It's the perfect snack to have during the big game.
Oh, I can't wait to taste those.
Finally, we'll make pinto bean burritos wrapped in a rice tortilla and topped with a fresh green salsa. We'll serve it with corn salsa, which is a side dish. Now, let's get ready to cook. Black beans with rice and fresh salsa. This dish is beautiful and it's a crowd pleaser. It's a nice all-in-one rice and bean dish with a built-in salad. An alternative is to omit the rice and serve the warm beans with the cool, fresh salsa on top as a dip with some spicy blue corn chips. Or you could serve the salsa alone as a side salad. Either makes a great appetizer. We'll start by steaming the rice. I like to rinse the rice, Till the water's clear. That water looks pretty clear. This is really clean rice. So I drain this water, add filtered water, and let it sit for about 15 minutes. I like to use a rice cooker. It makes cooking rice so easy. Just put the rice in, turn the rice cooker on, and it'll switch to keep warm when the rice is done. The rice will be done at about the same time we finish with the beans and the salsa.
Jean wears a reinforced cutting glove to cut slippery vegetables. I guess she cut her fingers a few too many times, and now she takes this precaution.
Next, we'll prepare the beans. You could cook the beans yourself, or you can use canned beans. There's no question that the flavor of home-cooked beans is better, but if you're in a hurry, gluten-free canned beans work just fine. We'll start with the onion. The recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to skin the garlic with this. Just makes it so fast and easy. And then mince the garlic into really small pieces. We'll start by sauteing the onions. I'm going to pour about 2 tablespoons or so of oil in the pan. And saute the onions until they're translucent. See how the onions are translucent? It's time to add the garlic. We're going to add the garlic toward the end of the cooking process so it doesn't turn brown and get bitter. The onions and garlic have cooked now. They're pretty much done, and I'm ready to add the beans. So I'm going to drain the beans and add them. And then I'm going to stir in the spices. We have cumin, chili powder, cayenne pepper, dried cilantro, and garlic salt. You stir these and let them heat just for a little while. I'm ready to make the salsa. First, I'm going to chop the tomatoes. I'm using these grape tomatoes, and I'm going to chop them into quarters. I'm going to peel this cucumber. Now this cucumber has edible skin on it, but I like it peeled for this salsa. And we'll chop the cucumber in about the same size pieces as the tomato. Well, I can tell I needed to start with a larger bowl, so I'm going to have to get a bigger bowl so I can mix this. We'll cut the avocado. I use a dull knife on the avocados. And slice it in the middle. And then across. And turn it inside out and get our little cubes out. We'll juice the limes next so the avocados don't turn brown. I'm going to roll them a little and then cut them in half. And then ream them. The lime juice mixed in with the beans is just a great combination. We're going to chop the jalapeno, de-stem it and de-seed it. And I'm probably only going to use about a half of a jalapeno in this. You can judge by however hot you like it, and also by how big the jalapeno is. And then I'm going to cut this into pretty small pieces. I'm going to take the cilantro and pull off the leaves, and then I'll chop them. These are clean leaves. I've washed this cilantro and I put it in the water to keep it perky. It just works a little better if you run a knife through it. And add it to the bowl. And finally, I'm going to chop the white onion. I think about a half of this onion is going to be enough for this. Again, this is something you would put in to taste. I like the crunchiness of the onion and I like the taste of it, but I don't want it to overpower the vegetables. Pour the onion in. First I'm going to put the salt in and then I'll toss it. Another thing, this is salt to taste. Isn't this pretty? It's just beautiful colors. This rice is steamed while we've made the beans and the salsa, and it's done. And we're going to enhance it with some lime juice. A little bit of olive oil. Some garlic salt. And some dried parsley. To assemble, start with the rice and just smooth it out in the bottom of the serving bowl. Next, add the beans and spread them around. And then add the salsa to the top. Wouldn't you be pleased to present this at a potluck? Bought baked tortilla chips and wished you could make them at home? Well, now you can. These are easy to make and taste great hot from the oven and have very low fat. First, we take 6 tortillas and cut them into quarters. Lay them out on a cookie sheet. And place a rack on top to prevent curling while baking. I bake them in a cold oven set at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. While the chips are baking, let's make a seasoning to mix them in when they finish. In a spice grinder, mix cumin, chili powder, cayenne pepper, garlic salt, Mexican oregano, and nutritional yeast.
Nutritional yeast is grown on molasses and then pasteurized to kill the yeast. It's full of 18 amino acids, 15 minerals, and rich in B-complex vitamins, including B12. It gives the taste of cheese to dishes.
Blend them into a powder and put them in a plastic bag so we can toss the chips when they're done. Spray the chips on one side lightly with olive oil and place in the bag with the seasonings and toss. Next, we'll make the nacho cheese topping. This nacho cheese is a spicy cheese substitute. I think sometimes you can spice things and give them the same consistency as what they're imitating, and they taste just as good. And you can eat them guilt-free, because there's very little oil in this dish. First, I've soaked an ancho chili in boiling water, and I'm going to use the soaking water later to adjust the consistency of the cheese. This chili has soaked for 15 minutes. I'm going to put some gloves on and de-stem and de-seed it, and then just tear it into pieces. Add the torn ancho pepper, Great Northern white beans, nutritional yeast, Umeboshi plums are also called a salt. These are plums that are fermented in plum vinegar for quite a while, at least 3 months. And they have a little pit in them which you need to remove. And we'll just add these in. If you have umeboshi plum paste, you can use that instead. Just use about 2 teaspoons.
The ume plum is common in Japan. It's harvested when green, and then when pickled, it's called an umeboshi plum. It's often used as a salt or a condiment. These plums are tart and are also made into vinegar, jam, and wine.
And I'm adding just a little garlic salt to start since the plums are really salty. I want to be really careful with salt. We'll taste it to make sure the salt's just right. And chili powder, paprika, turmeric, onion powder, garlic powder, and cayenne pepper. We'll add about a tablespoon of olive oil and about a half a cup of the soaking liquid for the pepper. Process until smooth. I want to check the consistency because it needs to be able to be poured. Oh, that's just right. Ideally, this would sit for a little while to let the flavors melt together. Pour it into a microwavable container. And microwave for 2 minutes. We'll garnish with a jalapeno. I'm still wearing my gloves because these are hot. And then pour on the nacho cheese. Sprinkle on some paprika. Don't those look good? Tamales. These tamales have a nice blend of flavors, from the squash and carrots and sweet potatoes to the hot chilies and the mild, soothing beans and corn masa. The Indians thought the three sisters, corn, squash, and beans, were the perfect combination. And after you taste these, maybe you'll agree. Tamales are wrapped in corn husks. The corn husks need to soften for a while, at least for 30 minutes. So the first thing we're going to do is place the corn husk in a big bowl. Cover them with boiling water. And place a weight on top. I use a big bowl of water. You could also use a teapot full of water or anything you have that's big and heavy. But just cover it with a weight and let it sit for about 30 minutes or so. The vegetables for the filling need to roast for a while. So let's start by peeling the sweet potato. I'm chopping the vegetables, the sweet potato first, in, it's a hard one, in uniform size pieces, so they all bake at about the same time. Peel the squash. Incidentally, I find having a refuse bowl to put all my peels and things in really handy. Chop the squash and add it to the roasting pan. Next, we'll peel the carrots. Chop the carrots and add the carrots to the roasting pan. Next, we'll peel and chop the onion. I just like to chop it long like this. We're going to end up mashing the vegetables as soon as they roast, so I want to try to put as much flavor from the onion in the vegetables as I can, so I like to cut them sort of large. I'm putting the lid on the roasting pan because that was a pungent onion. The next thing is to put in, I like to put just a few cloves of garlic, maybe 3 or 4 cloves of garlic in here, and put them all around. Drizzle with oil, and then add salt. It's a good idea to toss the vegetables a little before baking, just to get the oil and the salt mixed up. Put a lid on the roasting pan and place them in an oven that's set at 375 degrees.
Corn masa and cornmeal are not interchangeable in baking. Corn masa, which is dough in Spanish, is soaked in lime. Cornmeal isn't soaked in lime. The difference between cornmeal and grits, or polenta, is how finely the corn is ground.
To make the tamale dough, whisk the dry ingredients together. First the masa, the salt, and the baking powder. Whisk them until all of the dry ingredients are incorporated. Next, we add the oil. We add the oil a little bit at a time, and we mix it with our hands. So my hands are clean. This is a really good time to wash your hands. And then mix it together like this. What you're trying to do is to mix it until it has the consistency of damp sand. If you can start forming it into shapes like a sand castle, then you know you have the right amount of oil. See how this is starting to set up as I move it like this? This is an indication that you have enough oil in the flour. Add water, about a cup at a time, and then whisk to incorporate. The actual amount of water that you use may vary depending on your climate, on the moisture in the flour, and on the specific type of flour that you buy. So the measures are more determined by looking at the dough than they are by measuring the amount on the recipe. See how it's setting up? It's almost like a thick cookie dough. This is the right consistency. This is what it needs to look like. This is a good time to feel it. See that? See how it's a little thick? This is exactly the right consistency. Now, I'm going to let this sit for a little while, maybe 20 minutes or so, to let the baking powder activate and to let the flour absorb the moisture. These vegetables have roasted, they're soft, and they're ready to make into the filling. I'm going to pour them into a mixing bowl along with the juices. I'm going to add 2 or 3 Anaheim chilies. Then I'm going to take a stick blender and blend the vegetables. Reserve out 2 cups of the vegetables, which we will use for the sauce, and the beans to the filling. Doesn't that look good? And now I want to taste to make sure I have the right blend of seasonings. It's sweet. I taste the onion and the garlic and the chili and the velvety bean. This is going to make a nice filling for the tamales. We're ready to make some tamales. I've got my workspace all set up. I have a paper towel here, and this is sort of layered. There's layers of paper towels. I have another towel here that's all doubled up. I have my soaked corn husks. I have my masa that's sat for a while, and I have my filling, and I'm ready. First thing I'm going to do is to make some ties. I'm going to pat this dry on the towel, and then I'm going to pull off some strips, which we'll use in just a minute. I want them to be pretty thin because they're easier to tie when they're about this thin. To make the tamale, take a husk, pat it dry on the towel, take some of the masa dough and press it down onto the husk, right in the middle. I like to press it thin because I don't want them to be too heavy. Put about 2 tablespoons of the filling in the middle of the dough. Roll it together. And then take the bottom and lift it up. Roll the side all the way over. Keep your hand there to secure it, and then roll it all the way over. Tie it with the tie on top. See how having thin ties really makes it easy to tie it? Then we'll put it into a steamer, and as soon as we get a lot of them made, we'll steam them. This is a very pleasant and peaceful thing to do. So I'll just be rolling tamales for a while. You can see I've been busy. Steam these for 1 hour. We'll make a sauce from the vegetables to complement the tamales. First, take the reserved mashed vegetables and put them in a blender. Add a little water. This is a 4-ounce can of jalapenos. I'm going to add about 1/3 of a can. I like the sauce to be a little bit hot, but you can add the jalapenos to taste. And salt. Blend until smooth. Oh yes, this looks like a sauce. Pour the sauce into a saucepan and heat before serving. You may have noticed that I used partial cans of the chilies and of the jalapeno peppers. But what I do is I just freeze them in separate plastic bags. Since I almost always use 2 or 3 Anaheims, I'm just going to put 3 Anaheims in a plastic bag and then freeze them, and they're ready for the next time that I cook. And since I almost always use 1/3 of a can of jalapenos, I'm just going to put 1/3 in each of these plastic bags, and then they're ready to go for the next time. The tamales have steamed for 60 minutes. The sauce is warm and ready to serve, and I've made a little garnish. So, it's time to plate. Take a tamale out. Take off the wrapper. And just roll it out. And then put some sauce on top. Garnish. And it's ready to serve. Enchiladas with red chili sauce. This dish features a tofu cheese. The cheese flavor is created by adding, among other things, nutritional yeast and umeboshi plum vinegar. These are two unusual ingredients that enhance the flavor greatly. We'll also add steamed vegetables to the filling to round out the taste. The warm red chili sauce uses guajillo, chipotle, and ancho chilies. This is a great dish to make ahead of time and serve to company. We'll chop and steam the vegetables. Using this amount of carrots as the guide, I'm going to cut equal amounts of all the rest of the vegetables. Put the carrots in first, and then estimate about the same amount of cauliflower. Chop the broccoli. And then the squash. I think we can use the whole squash. As you can see, there will be about 2 cups of vegetables once they're steamed. Steam the vegetables for 10 minutes. I want to press the tofu before I use it in the cheese base. First I rinse it. This just came out of the package, and I like to rinse off the packing water. And then I want to put it on multiple layers of paper towels, and then I'm going to put a weight on it. And let it sit like this for about 5 minutes and hope that it balances. You can also change the paper towels and do it again in another 5 minutes. The steamed vegetables will add back moisture, and pressing the tofu helps it absorb the flavor enhancements. To make the filling, start with the garlic. I'm going to use 3 cloves of garlic. Add the tofu and just break it up. See how much different this looks now that it's pressed? It's a lot drier. Add a little olive oil. The umeboshi plum vinegar. We'll add nutritional yeast. And a little garlic salt. I'm going to process just for a few minutes before I add the vegetables. Add the vegetables. And process a little longer. That smells really good. Pull off some cilantro leaves. I want to chop these a little before I add them. And place the cilantro in the food processor. Pulse until incorporated. This is just right. Look at this. See how it's got a nice color and a nice texture.
The ancho chili is the dried version of the poblano. See? Here's a poblano, and here's an ancho. The ancho has pepper, prune, and tobacco qualities. It's considered sweet, moderate, and is a nice addition to red chili. The chipotle is the dried version of the jalapeno. These chipotles are smoked and have a lot of flavor. We also use the guajillo. It's one of the most common dried chilies used in Mexican dishes.
We're going to pour boiling water on top of the chilies and then set them aside for future use. They need to soak in boiling water for about 10 or 15 minutes until they soften up. I want to toast the tortillas before I use them to roll them up into enchiladas. So the first thing I do is I have a very hot griddle here. I spray it with some oil, and then I place the tortilla on the griddle and press it. And see, they're still malleable. They're going to roll just fine. These chilies have been soaking for a while, and now I'm ready to de-stem and de-seed them. So to do that, the seeds are right at the top. Oh, isn't that perfect? Look at that. This is exactly what you hope for. You just pull all the seeds out, and that one is ready to go. Now I'm going to put it in the blender. Pour about 2 cups of the soaking liquid into the blender. Add chili powder, oregano, 1 clove of garlic, and some salt. Blend until smooth. Now it's ready to cook into a sauce. To cook the sauce, first we make a roux. I'm using cornmeal. Put the cornmeal in and add about the same amount of oil. Let this cook until it browns a little.
A roux is when flour and fat are blended together over heat to make a base for sauces. A traditional roux is made with butter and wheat flour. The alternative cook uses olive oil or sunflower oil and alternative flours such as cornmeal, rice flour, or sorghum flour.
It just smells wonderful, and you can smell it when it's getting brown. It's toasting. It's almost done. Add the red chili sauce mixture and just let it cook until it's thick. See this consistency? This is just exactly how thick I want this red chili. Now we're ready to make the enchiladas. Take one of the toasted tortillas and dip it into the red chili. Just keep on rolling. Once you finish filling and rolling the enchiladas, pour on the rest of the red sauce. Bake at 350 degrees for 25 minutes. The enchiladas have baked for 25 minutes and they're ready. And I think I'd like to accent this with a spinach salad. First, I'm going to mix the dressing. I have olive oil, lime juice, agave nectar, which is a natural sweetener from the agave cactus, poppy seeds, and that's all the ingredients. And now I'm just going to mix it with the blender.
Agave nectar is extracted from the agave cactus. It's very sweet, but it's low on the glycemic index. It doesn't significantly raise blood sugar levels and is used a lot by people with diabetes or hyperglycemia.
Add jicama, blueberries, avocado, and toss. The cool salad against the warm red chili and the filling is a nice combination. Tostadas. This recipe features a mixture of spicy ground mushrooms and pinto beans as the base layer. It also features a homemade guacamole and a tomato salsa. We start by baking the tortillas. Place the tortillas on a cookie sheet and put them in a cold oven set at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. Put a rack on top to prevent curling while baking. We'll make the bean and mushroom base next. First we halve the mushrooms and put them into a food processor. Process until they look like this. While we have the food processor out, let's process the onion. Chop it into quarters. And process until chopped. We'll start by sauteing the mushrooms. I'm going to add about, a tablespoon or so of oil. And the mushrooms. And we'll just cook this for a little while. The rule is onions first and less mushrooms. Then you cook the mushrooms first and then add the onion. These mushrooms have cooked a while. See how there's a lot less moisture? Now it's time to add the onions. We'll let this cook for a little while longer. This is done now, and if you look at it, it's pretty dry. The onions have cooked, they're opaque, and most of the moisture has cooked out of the mushrooms. So now it's time to add the beans. And now we'll add the spices. First we'll add the cayenne pepper, chili powder, garlic salt, prepared medium salsa, and then stir. Taste. Next we'll make guacamole. This is a simple recipe that brings out the taste of an avocado. I love this as a topping on Mexican food. It cools the hot, spicy foods and adds a nice texture. First, we'll cut the avocado in half. Roll the lemon and cut it in half. And ream it until you have about a tablespoon of juice. Add garlic salt, and with a pastry whisk, mash the flesh until everything is incorporated. And taste. And since there's only 2 ingredients, this is the time to adjust for salt or lemon juice. To make the tomato salsa, first we're going to peel the tomatoes. What I'm going to do is cut across in the bottom of each tomato and put it in boiling water for 1 minute. Then it'll be easy to peel. These have boiled for 1 minute. Now I'm going to drain them. Peel off the skin. See how easy the skin comes off? And yet the tomato is still firm. Chop the tomatoes. Next we'll chop a half of a white onion. We'll peel and cube a half of a jicama. Jicama is a great thing to add to salsas. Now it's time to cut the jalapeno. I'm wearing gloves. It's a hot one. And I think I'm going to use about a half for this. I'm just going to cut it and de-stem it and de-seed it. And then mince it. Pull some leaves off of some cilantro and chop it. Add it to our bowl. I'm going to roll the lime and ream the juice. Add salt and toss. This is really good if you let it sit for just a little while before you serve it so the flavors can all blend. Next, I'm going to cut some spinach. You could use lettuce, but I like spinach in this. Either one would be fine. To assemble the tostada, place 1 baked tortilla on the plate and first start with the bean mix. That's nice and hot. And you can pile on as much as you like, and then put another tortilla on top. Add a little more bean and mushroom mix. Add some spinach shreds. Some tomato salsa. And some guacamole. Now it's ready to serve. Pinto bean burritos. These pinto bean burritos feature a flavored bean filling wrapped in a rice tortilla with a fresh salsa made of Anaheim chilies, fresh tomatillos, and fresh cilantro. It's served with a corn, jicama, tomato, jalapeno side dish salad. This is an easy, everyday meal. To make the pinto bean base, start by chopping a half of an onion. Take about 2 cloves of garlic and mince them. First we'll saute the onions. Put a little oil in, get it warm. And add the onions. Cook the onions until they're translucent, and then we'll add the garlic. These look like they're just about ready. You want to get them almost done before you add the garlic, because the garlic cooks sort of fast and you don't want it to turn brown. Add the beans, vegetable broth. And this is unsalted vegetable broth. Actually, those are also unsalted beans. I like to use unsalted things and then salt to my taste. Add salt. In an earlier segment, we froze some Anaheim chilies. This is 3 Anaheim chilies from a can, so add those. And this is 1/3 of a 4-ounce can of jalapenos. Stir and blend with the stick blender. Taste. This is warm and hearty. It's going to be nice inside the burrito with the fresh salsa on top. To toast the chilies, put them on a rack and put them on the top shelf of your oven. Set the oven to broil and check on them every 5 minutes. See how they're getting brown? This is just what you want. You want them to blister so that the skin will peel off. It's time to turn them over. And they've been in just about 5 minutes. We'll cook them another 5 minutes. The chilies have roasted and now they're ready to peel. The skin is hard and it just doesn't work if you don't peel them. Once you blister them like this, the skin just peels right off. And see how hard the skin is? You just wouldn't want to eat that. After you peel the chilies, take out the stems and the seeds. Since these chilies are a lot more mild than some of the other chilies, I don't wear gloves. But you could if you're sensitive to them. And we'll just set these aside for future use.
The tomatillo is a key ingredient of Mexican green sauces, which is salsa verde in Spanish. They're used cooked when the flavors develop, or even raw. Tomatillos add a tangy taste to food and diminish the heat of the chilies.
Peel off the outer skin of the tomatillos. Just pops right off. Give them a little rinse. Core. And chop. I'm just going to chop them up into a few pieces like this. Now we're ready to cook the tomatillos and the chilies. Place the tomatillos in a saucepan. And just let them cook for a little while. I don't want to cook them too much, but cooking releases a whole different taste with the tomatillos. While the tomatillos are cooking, I'm going to de-leave the cilantro. I'm showing how to make this salsa fresh, using fresh ingredients. And I started with fresh chilies and fresh tomatillos and fresh cilantro. But if you don't have a lot of time, you can do this same salsa with cans. You can take a half a can of chilies and a half a can of tomatillos and then some fresh cilantro and make this chili. It's a lot faster and it tastes really good too. I just wanted to show both ways today. These tomatillos have cooked just enough. This looks just right. Now I want to add the chilies and let them cook just a little while with the tomatillos. Place the cooked tomatillos and chilies in the blender. Add the fresh cilantro and blend. Taste. Oh, that is really good. It's hot, but it's really acidic at the same time. It's going to be great on the burritos. To make the corn salsa, start by chopping the onion. Next, the jalapeno. I have a glove for everything, don't I? I want this to be hot, so I am going to put the whole jalapeno in this salsa. I'm going to cut it really finely though. I cut peppers from the inside because it's easier to cut them than it is turning them the other direction. Place the jalapeno in the bowl. Cut the tomato. I'm going to cut it in pretty small pieces because the corn is small, and that's sort of setting the size of everything I cut in this dish. Place the tomatoes in the bowl. Peel the jicama. Chop the jicama. This is such a wonderful food. It tastes like sugar cane. It adds a crunch and a nice refreshing taste to different salsas. I'm going going to cut this in small little squares. Add the jicama to the bowl. Chop the cilantro. Add the cilantro to the bowl. Add the corn. Add the salt. And the juice of 1 lime. Some limes are juicier than others. This one's not the most juicy lime. Toss. Isn't that pretty? It's so fresh. Such a nice contrast to the hearty beans too in the burrito. And taste. These are gluten-free, dairy-free, wheat-free brown rice tortillas. I bought these at the health food store, and they're very good. To make a bean burrito, start with the beans. And then roll the burrito. Take some salsa and put on top, and I'm pretty generous with this salsa. And then add some corn salsa. This is a great meal for any day of the week. I hope you've enjoyed our program today. I am devoted to showing people how to cook without gluten or dairy and with low or no cholesterol. I believe it is possible to cook without products that cause problems and to create dishes with alternative ingredients that rival those with traditional ingredients. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to write to me at info@alternativecook.com. For a listing of ingredients used in the DVDs or to order more DVDs, please visit our website at www.alternativecook.com. I look forward to seeing you in another program.
Bye!
No gluten, no dairy, low cholesterol. No gluten, no dairy, low cholesterol.
I forgot my bowl. Oh, that's hysterical.
Jean, are you okay?
I'm laughing, I'm crying. I might as well cut an onion. Oh, God. Okay, Life is better now. I have a refuse bowl.